Good morning for AM 1340, 99.5 FM WGRV. This is Reid Seals, and I'm here for our monthly interview with Greene County Mayor Kevin Morrison. Good morning, Kevin.
Good Thursday morning, Reid.
So first off, can you explain the history behind the 321 project request?
Well, the Highway 321 or State Route 35, the Newport Highway upgrade, has been completed. Everybody's familiar, I think, with the four-lane portion that runs through Cocke County. Originally, when the project was conceived some 20 plus years ago now, there was supposed to be a four-lane connector road between Sevierville and Tri-Cities. That plan evolved over time to change and whatnot. And most recently, of course, the four-lane portion has been completed in Cocke County. They are currently, I think, in the process of now bridging in and around the French Broad River and the Little Pigeon River down in Newport. I think there's scheduled to be a bypass around Newport to carry traffic directly into Sevierville. That highway has sort of slowly been constructed toward Greene County, and then the plan at some point in time changed with the commissioner of TDOT several years ago. Rather than have a four-lane highway in Greene County, they were going to build a super two-lane. Now, most people ask, well, what's a super two-lane? Well, a super two-lane highway is essentially just that, with a third lane, which would be sort of an open turn lane in between the two traveling traffic lanes. They were going to buy enough property to construct a four-lane highway, but only build or construct two lanes from the Greene County line to the 11E bypass. So this is an effort in meetings with the town engineer, different planners, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen in Greenville, and several members, prominent members of the county commission, as far as Greenville and Greene County's future is concerned, and our sanctity really when the highway gets opened up. We think for commerce and travel, it's much better if we're going to have the property acquired for a four-lane that we just go ahead and ask them to prioritize building a four-lane. So that's the action that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen took in Greenville on Tuesday, and it's the action that the county commission took Tuesday night, which was basically to speak with one voice, sing from the same hymnal, so to speak, and tell the state government, TDOT in specifically, that we are requesting that you prioritize constructing a four-lane highway from the Cocke County line, joining the currently established four-lane, and coming through Greene County to the 11E bypass. So I think the state really wants to see that we're in unison on this project and we're cooperating. That's one of the things that I think has held up a lot of the road projects in and around Greene County, is sort of the unity of one voice and telling the state what we want in terms of our transportation needs and priorities, and this is scheduled to do that.
What is the almost $174,000 of the American Rescue Plan funding allocated for that was voted on Tuesday?
Well, as you know, the finalized guidance from the federal government recently arrived. In order to pull more money from the federal government for different priorities and projects that Greene County desperately needs, the state government, in cooperation with the federal government, established the priority that if we would place more money or more emphasis on water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure projects, that we could pull more grant funding to Greene County. So we have more or less prioritized with, a commitment, a pledge of up to $2 million for, broadband infrastructure in Greenville and Greene County. And this is sort of the first foray or commitment to the water and sewer upgrades that Greene County desperately needs to take advantage of more commerce. The $173,000 plus from the American Rescue Act plan that was passed Tuesday evening is earmarked for the North Greene Utilities water treatment plant that pulls water from Lick Creek and services essentially a great portion of the north side of Greene County and the interstate. North Greene has been somewhat at a disadvantage in the fact that the turbidity of the water in Lick Creek is very difficult. It's very difficult to make potable water. Pulling water from Lick Creek, it's not necessarily the same quality that Greenville is pulling from the Nolechucky River, and it's not as easy to produce. A lot of people are like, well, it's already water, Mayor. Why do you have to say that it's difficult to produce water? Well, they have to remove, the turbidity from the water and make it potable, and that is very expensive. And those machines have membranes or filters that finally filter the water, and those things have a shelf life or a service life about 5 years. But the difficulty with Lick Creek is that it reduces the service life of those membranes down to about 3 years, 4 years at max, and that's treating them very delicately, as the case may be. So we are committing $173,000 to the replacement of those membranes at the water treatment plant at North Greene Utilities. So we have slated to give or to pledge a certain amount of money to each utility district that we have. We have a total of 7. However, with the state guidance now, 2 of those water districts, Greenville Water Commission and the Mossheim Utility District, are receiving their own separate allocations, or those districts are receiving their own separate allocations, the municipalities that serve them, for that purpose. So we have a total of 5 utility districts that we're going to be pledging money to, hopefully if the commission sees it that way. And this is the first slice of that money going to the North Greene Utilities. So that amount will come out of their pledge or their allocation that we're going to give to the other utility districts. So we're not giving them something that we're not giving everyone else. But that's what that's for, Reid.
Why were Bill Dabbs and Chris Wilhoit chosen for the Joint Industrial Development Board?
Well, I think the commission saw that Chris Wilhoit and Bill Dabbs are 2 very good, high-quality candidates. Chris Wilhoit, I chose him, and I had a number of requests from different people all around the county. But Chris is somewhat of a fresh face. He's not necessarily involved in a lot of other things. So he's somewhat new to the game. So perhaps thinking outside the box a little bit with that selection there. Chris is an area resident. His family lives in close proximity to the Green Valley property, sort of in that section of the county, if you will. His family has a very successful business background. Chris himself has a law enforcement background. He's a tenured agent with the TBI and a leader there. So he has a very sort of good grasp on, reasonable issues, I would think. He has a familiarity, due to his experience there, with state processes and procedures and the agencies that we may need to call on to help us develop that property in a good way. So that's the reason Chris was chosen. Commissioner Dabbs, he's obviously on the county commission. I chose Bill primarily because he was nominated and served on the governor's Economic and Community Development Board in years past, which is quite an honor in being chosen by the governor. So he has a familiarity with the Economic and Community Development Board with the state. Bill is also a county commissioner, a very long-serving, tenured member of the county commission. So he can provide a perspective to his colleagues on the county commission that are going to be approving these types of things, sort of in an unbiased way, or in a way that I can't. So, there's somewhat of a separation, if you will, between the executive branch and the legislative branch, which Bill represents. So he can give them somewhat of a slice or a vision a little bit differently, perhaps, than I can, that perhaps I wouldn't consider, or maybe he wouldn't consider. He's a successful business owner and a veteran. I would love to see something done out there. I've not given up on that for our veteran population. Homeless treatment, cemetery. There's all kinds of ideas that have been floated, and I would love to see something along those lines. So two very well qualified, great individuals in Chris Wilhoit and Bill Dabbs and I. The vote was unanimous to approve them, and I think that speaks for itself.
And finally, can you give us an update on the former Takoma Hospital building?
Well, the excitement continues to build, Reid, and we are getting to meet every Wednesday at the annex with our renovation team, if you will, the architect, the engineers, our maintenance group, and others to begin the process, and we've begun that in earnest. So we have essentially dehospitaled the third floor, where we're planning to position the administrative functions of the sheriff's office and the detective functions of the sheriff's office. So we've gone through and removed all the head walls where the patient beds were, the oxygen hookups and those types of things, reducing essentially the patient rooms that were on the third floor down to more sort of reasonable looking office space, if you will. We have consulted with the architect and have a plan to, eliminate some of the fixtures as far as the commodes and showers and those things that are no longer needed. We're going to keep a few of those and then repurpose. We have found that the most, difficult decision that we're approaching is upgrading the HVAC system and ridding ourselves of the high-pressure boilers. The high-pressure boilers, of course, require specific training and certification and different permits and things like that. That's really no longer needed for an office building. That equipment is quite dated. It's very expensive to maintain and run, and the capacity with which they produce the steam and hot water is no longer needed at the level and the capacity that you would need for an office building. A lot of that capacity obviously was there for laundry and sterilization of equipment and cafeteria and different things such as that. So that's no longer needed in an office building. So we're transitioning away from the high pressure boilers and that sort of complicated level of heating and going to a more conventional HVAC. So we're looking at that. That's sort of the top priority now, along with the repurposing of the third floor. So we're well into that. We hope to have the sheriff in there sometime by late summer, early fall, certainly by the time the weather gets ready to change. And perhaps we can have some other things on the books and underway over there well in advance of that and get everything moved over. But we're excited about it. Everybody that comes over and sees it, that tours the facility, thinks it's a magnificent idea. And we're looking at doing some things in conjunction with the town as well. So it's an exciting time. So continue to ask about it, Reid. We're making progress every day.
Well, I want to thank Greene County Mayor Kevin Morrison for joining us this morning. This is Reid Seals for AM 1340 and 99.5 FM WGRV.